A big round of applause for the lady herself, Padma Shri Usha Uthup, Dr. Shondip Chatterjee, and the authoress Srishti Jha. Where is she? Right. Srishti. On behalf of the Bengal Club, I'd like to welcome all of you here today, this evening, in what will be, I'm sure, a most wonderful, well-anticipated, expected book launch, The Queen of Indian Pop. This is Srishti Jha. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. The program will start with a brief introduction of three people who probably need no introduction at all, followed by a conversation between Dr. Shondip Chatterjee interviewing Ushadi and Srishti, and we'll keep it very simple, and maybe we'll allow the audience to interact with the three of them, and followed by, I'm sure, what all of us are looking forward to, the golden voice herself, the Queen of Indian Pop, I would say the Empress of Indian Pop. A big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen. I was asked to introduce Ushadi, and I have to say that I cheated. I asked her daughter, you know, daughters and mothers have this wonderful relationship. I asked Anjali, a very talented daughter, that Anjali, you've got to help me out. And she's written up something which we all know, and I'm going to follow it up with quite a few things we don't know. I'm sure some of her closest friends will find what I'm going to say not very surprising, but I was amused. And I said that I wouldn't mind having something like this written on my epitaph. From nightclub singer to Padma Shri, she has sung at the Wembley Annex, and the first Indian to do that. She is an honorary citizen of Kenya, the first Indian to sing to a mixed audience in South Africa after apartheid, the first woman playback singer to sing for Mithun Chakravarti, a man. I didn't know that. I had to read that twice. I said, hey, that can't be. But then, she has sung nearly every night during October to March in the 80s and 90s at para shows. One of the only artists to actually file a case, I don't know whether I should be saying this or not, against a minister while he was still serving, and won it. She has sung for the United Nations, prime ministers, and presidents. I said that, Anjali, how can we stop here? We all know that. We can Google this. Now, I'll treat you to a drink at the Bengal Club if you tell me about the real Ushadi. So then came a longer message, and now wait with bated breath. So she says, Amma, I love that. I wish we could all call her Amma, but she's too gorgeous. I'll call her Ushadi anyway. Amma is a great seamstress and painter. She's a fantastic cook and dancer. So it's going to be an audiovisual extravaganza. She has learnt the Bharatnatyam and can moonwalk like a dream. Move over the late Michael Jackson. She's meticulous and detailed. She's also the mad one in the family. I don't think I should be saying this at all. And her jokes leave everyone in splits. She's generous to a fault, and if you ask her for one thing, she'll give you 10. She doesn't know how to give just one, from wearing wigs to a denim skirt, painting bags and return gifts to making labels for all of us at school. She treats everyone equally. She's a prude and extremely conservative. I think all daughters say that of their mothers. She's very pakka, and what has to be done and what shouldn't be done. She's very clear about that. When she gets tired of answering calls many a time, Anjali says, I shouldn't be saying this as well, I've spoken for her and no one ever knew the difference. She says that she would probably need another book to introduce her. Ushadi loves stationery, pens, small things in size, melts her heart. She keeps everything that's given to her. She's a master creator, I can truly believe that. You can see that with her Kanjivaram shoes. She's very well read and is fabulous with words. She's a voracious reader, loves movies and serials, and I think, thanks to COVID, she catches up with that as well. Thank God for her energy. This is Anjali talking about Ushadi, that she never gets tired. She's a morning person, and at night, if she's not singing, she can be bed by 9. So Anjali tells her, Mom, Amma, just hold a mic, and that way you'll stay awake. Now, to move on to Dr. Shondeep Chatterjee, I might need his wife's help for this, but yes, he graduated from medical college. He was my batchmate or classmate, 1984, went on to neurosurgery. I remember him as a very seriously academic, very brilliant young gentleman, and he was an ace debater even then. You all know him as a debater. Well, he's also a poet, and from what I can gather from his better half, he's a travel buff. He writes, he reads, he's a voracious reader, he's a photographer, and quite a lot more. But, again, I must read this out. I asked Uttara, I said, Uttara, he's not replying to my SMS. Can you say something about Shondeep, you and Shombit? Compile something which is funny. Everybody knows him as the brilliant neurosurgeon, and everybody knows him as a debater. And Uttara, wherever you are, I think she's hiding somewhere. Yes? Ah, that's it. He can't remember names and identities of his own relations. In spite of teaching neurosurgery across the world, he needs prompting each time we visit people. Brain surgeons need only one brain, and that's the brain of their patients. Thank you. I thought that was wonderful. And I shall leave it to Dr. Shondeep Chatterjee to introduce to us Srishti, the one and only Srishti Jha.
Thank you so much. So, good evening and welcome to this program. I didn't know my introduction was going to be so long, and I was very stressed, I have to say, when I heard my wife had contributed to the introduction. It's a great, great pleasure to be in the company of two young ladies at the same time. And I'm going to introduce the slightly younger one of the two, which is Srishti Jha. She's the young lady who's the cause of us being here today, and she's the young lady because of whom Ushadi has agreed to my invitation to visit our club today. Because Srishti, who's a freelance journalist now, who's been with the Hindustan Times and a lot of important newspapers before, has now decided to translate into English the biography of the one and only Usha Uthup. I have to say the original biography in Hindi was written by her father, so she's actually kept the translation true both in spirit and to the letter. And it's been a wonderful experience reading your books, Srishti. And I'm going to have to start this evening by kicking off with the slightly younger of the two ladies I'm sharing the platform with. And going to ask you, Srishti, what prompted you in the midst of all your journalistic activities to write a translation in English of this book?
So, actually, my dad is the reason that I know of Usha ji as a star, like I was a young kid, and my father was a huge fan, and my grandmother was a huge fan of her, my mom was a huge fan of her. So I actually grew up, seeing the fascination that they had, for this female singing icon who had this very unusual voice. And as the year passed, it's like one fine day, my father told me that I think I've decided to, do a book on Usha ji, and he was following, like up with her office, for years. And it's like there was always something or the other which he has written in the preface of the book, and it's a very interesting story with Anjanda, who used to manage Usha ji's work earlier. So
Who seemed like the Great Wall of China once you read your book.
Yeah. So, say one fine day, he told me that I'm traveling to Calcutta, and I finally got an appointment with Usha ji, and he was very excited. And then the journey began, and actually Didi felt that it was an article or something, but that actually transformed into like a biography. And their conversations began, their meetings began, and my father would be visiting Calcutta. We speak every day, and then he would share these interesting anecdotes and how Usha ji is as a person, because I've always known her as a star. And so then, I started having this sense of connect with her, because the kind of stories I heard about her, it was just very real, very unique. It's not only that her voice is unique, her personality, sort of like, it actually seemed very unique to me. So then, like after 2 years, the Hindi book came out, and it got a lot of love. Almost each and every copy was, sort of like sold out, and there were so many performances and festivals, and a lot of things came up, articles, talks, all of that. And then I read the Ulaski Now chapters, and my father would often read the chapters to me, and he would ask for my feedback, because he's not only my father, he's also my guru, and he has trained me, since I was a kid. And all that I know today in terms of journalism, in terms of writing, it's all him. So he would read out those chapters to me, and I was so, like, I would feel so overwhelmed, and I would feel, sort of just like going and giving her a hug, because I saw certain parts of me also in her. That, a certain exterior and a different interior, like he calls her the sea woman, Samudra-stri in Hindi, and I have done that, sort of like thing as a sea woman who has a very, sort of calm exterior, but it houses a lot of things, it's like within, and a sea, was like a metaphor when it came to her. So we were in talks, I had a job going on, and there were discussions about how this book will be translated, who will be doing it. So actually one of the editors at Penguin India had told my father कि ऐसा है विकास जी कि ये किताब बहुत प्यार से लिखी गई है, और इसको किसी ऐसे ही इंसान के हाथ में दे सकते हैं आपकी राइटिंग की खुशबू को समझता हो. And it's about the, like the essence of the book, because if you see the Hindi work, each and every word that's written in that book, in every chapter, it's been crafted, keeping her in mind, because it's not very easy to write about a personality like her. She has so many branches, and there's so many facets to her personality. So then my father was, thinking about it, and like one fine day, I just told him that, listen, do you want me to give it a shot? He was like, listen, I was waiting for this, so, it's like I wanted you to come to me with this, rather than me asking you to do it, because he actually didn't want my first piece of work to be a translation. He wanted it to be a novel. But then I told him, and he was like, yes, why not? So I prepared a synopsis, and I shared with Penguin. And then the editor, then he said कि मतलब बताइए कि मतलब आपके घर में बच्चा है और हम लोग बिल्कुल शहर में ढूंढ रहे हैं. So then he liked the thing, and the essence was intact. So I left everything, I quit my job, and I gave an entire year to this book, because I just didn't want to compromise it, because there was a lot at stake. So I began that journey, and I was in the mountains. I moved to the mountains, and then I gave about 8 to 9 months, to sort of translate all the chapters. At times I would spend like half an hour, like one single sentence, because my father's Hindi is something else. And Usha ji will agree with me, even though, like I'm good at Hindi and English both. But, at times, like you really don't want to compromise, because I'm aware of the hard work. I'm aware of the passion that my father had when he was working on this book, and I would share the chapters with him, and then he would share the chapters with her. So, it actually seemed, like a big mountain to climb for me, when I began. But the day I finished the last page, and the journey of translating this book, and this woman, this icon, her stories, Usha as a child, Usha as a young woman, Usha as a mother, Usha as a daughter, Usha as a wife, Usha as a mother, like all these different roles that Usha played, and the star was a part of all these roles, and she actually never mixed the roles up. It was always, like she always kept it in a different space. And in a recent interview, somebody asked me, so who she represents, like for you? So I said the perfect combination of identity and balance is Usha Uthup for me, because it's extremely difficult to maintain that. She is so sure of who she is, and there's this, sort of like traditionally clad woman with a modern outlook, and having that sense of strength, and it's like being true to who she is, and that's just not up for a compromise. So for a young woman like me who is still, trying to define her identity or try to find her place in the world, she just became, sort of like the emblem of that for me. And then I got to meet Didi, and I saw her. She opened the door. I had gone to, let's like have dinner with her, and I was like a little starstruck, of course. And I was like, how will I talk to her? What will I say? She's so stunning looking. What should I do? This, that. And then she opens this door, and there's this absolutely magnificent woman standing in front of you, and she's everything that represents India, on a global platform, even at home. So she was just the right combination of everything that I aspire to be. And then we had our conversations, we ate, and since then a beautiful friendship began. And my father was not a part of that friendship, by the way. It's between everything that we speak about, everything that we have, it's between me and her. And they share a different friendship, we share a different friendship, and we have always been very clear about that since the very beginning. So she's a great friend, she's a great confidant. She is, it's like somebody who you can laugh with. She's somebody who you can just cry in front of. She's very human, even though she's such a humongous star. She is actually the sea woman in my life. And, if actually somebody asks me that, if you can find that comparison between, like if sea was a woman, it will be Usha Uthup. So yes, I still have a lot more to say about the journey that I've had. I, sort of like all these things are still kind of, like I'm still kind of getting in, that it's happening. The book is here. I haven't really kind of like turned the pages, because every time I do it, I'm like, have I, it's like these are my words. It just freaks me out, and I close the book. I was like, okay, so it's still, kind of sinking in. And it's very overwhelming, and it's been an honor to share the cover with two really important names in my life, my father and my Didi. Yeah.
Thank you,
So
Srishti. We'll come back to you. But there is no doubt that what you have written is quite a gem. And talking about gems, we're going to start off by turning...
It's actually because I've written about a gem, so it had to come in the book.
Yes, and I'm going to start off with not one gem, but 9 gems. And I'm going to start off with the 9 Gems nightclub in Chennai as we bring Didi in. And Ushadi, tell us about the start at the 9 Gems nightclub in Chennai.
Yeah, hi everybody. Namaskar, namaskaram, sat sri akal, salam alaikum. Just so brilliant, first of all. I just call everybody Dada because it's easier, No? Okay. I'll call you Sandy. Yeah, okay. Sandy, no. Okay, Dr. Sandeep. Actually, it's so wonderful that I'm here today. And though I've been here so many times to perform and to be part of different kind of evenings, it's just wonderful to be here with you and with Srishti. And, to share moments like this is really, for me, historic, really. I don't think many artists have this honor of being in a place like Bengal Club, which is so just throbbing with heritage and history, and so beautiful. And for me, this is so very special, because when Arindam Seal spoke to me, and he said, this book is coming out and it'll be lovely to have you at the Bengal Club, and Dada will, can he call you Dada? Okay.
Yes, we'll give him permission.
Okay. So Dada will contact you and everything will be done. Okay. So, for me to be here and to talk to you about this book, and to listen to all that Srishti has said, it's just something amazing, really fantastic. You really have to, what shall I say, consider, yourself being really blessed, and I am truly blessed to have friends like all of you who have followed my career. Each and every face over here is so familiar and so part of my growing up that it's just the humility that takes over totally, totally for me. And that this is why my gratitude is so vast, to say thank you to all of you for being here. And who gets written about? I mean, who gets written about a Jeevani in Hindi? I mean, being, as you said, nine gems and a nightclub, singing in a nightclub in Chennai, just starting there. And then you get written in Hindi. I mean, it's just impossible to believe, really. It was impossible for me to believe that, somebody was going to write about me in Hindi, especially because I'm singing Western music. See? So most people would have thought that my first book or somebody who wrote about me would be writing in English. And then this man comes up with, the kind of Hindi that's so difficult for you to understand. But he's such a good listener that he would just ask the question, and you could trust him. Like Suzanne, you just know you trust him and you carry on life. And yeah, it's just amazing how this whole book turned out. So when I look back at 9 gems, it's been such a milestone in my life, actually. 53 years ago, can you just imagine, 53, 54 maybe, my aunt just asked me to get up and sing. There was a band over there. And everybody knows that I've never learned a note of music. And for me to just get up and sing with that band, and everybody who was there just clapped their hands after I sang Fever. It was like so fantastic, really. And I think it was the thing that made me feel really that this is what I was born for. Not to sing, but to be able to communicate and to be able to get that love. For me, everything is about belonging. I just want to belong. I just want to be loved. And I just want to love, I can cry just thinking about all the faces, each and every face over here that's been a part of my life. And that 9 gems has brought me to where I am today. I just can't believe it, because the applause that I got after the song, I sang more and more. And I realized then that it's the nasha, or the intoxication, is much more than all your single malts and vodkas and gins and everything that you'll have. Yeah, I can get really high, and I'm really high. High on love, high on life, high on music, and that's all I really. Finally, I think in the ultimate analysis, that's all I'm looking for.
I think one of the turning points in your career seemed to have been your interaction with Mahalia Jackson.
Oh God, yes. Oh God, yes. Is that in the book?
Yes. It is indeed.
Oh, lovely. Mahalia Jackson is, as far as I'm concerned, was one of the greatest gospel singers of all time. And she was singing in Bombay at the cathedral in Colaba. And I went to, it was organized by USIS. And it was just that I went to attend. And because I had learned 2 songs. One was called It Don't Cost Very Much. And there was another one which said Mother. So I went to see her. And my goodness me, what an experience it was meeting with her. And I told her about how much I love this song and, how she inspired me. So she said, then you sing with me. Oh my God, I must have been, 20 or something like that. Some crazy age like that. I can't even dream of how it happened. And when I started to sing, I said, no, I can't sing in your key. She said, of course you will. E flat is a key which everybody can sing, and you will sing it. I think I was so scared. And, one of the biggest things that happened to me that day was when she said, Aretha said the same thing. Aretha Franklin. My goodness. Oh God, and I didn't know in those days, you know, we didn't know Didi and we didn't know how to do pranam. I come from a South Indian family. We only do namaskaram like on the floor, prostrate and on the floor. So I didn't know how to do Paila. I just didn't know, and I didn't know what to call her. If I knew, then, you know, I would have said Mahalia Di or Didi or something or what. I just went, Aritha, I did that to her. She said, she's like my daughter. And you're like my daughter. Just sing in E flat. Oh, Lordy Moses. And her organ player was there. And he played the opening bars. And she told me, sing. I'm so glad you brought it up because there's so many people who don't know how big a star I am. I mean, who gets a chance to say that I have sung with Mahalia Jackson, yeah? बहुत बोलते हैं आजकल ये किया वो किया I don't have all these things, you know, to hand out. These days, you know, the kids, I'm sure you would never even ask me a question like that. These days, the kids, they're just crazy. When I say kids in the business, they've got all these things besides Instagram and WhatsApp, Facebook, and what's the other thing? Podcast. What? Podcast? Never heard of that before. Anyway, so, you know, they are all so up with the media and they know how to present themselves, how to show themselves off. And so none of you know what a great person I am. I'm so thrilled to know. So happy I get a chance to say that to all of you. Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you a secret about Usha. She wasn't into social media, so the only thing she could do is write letters. And I'm going to quote a letter that she wrote to someone, and I'm going to leave you to guess, or she's going to tell you who she wrote this letter to. She wrote to someone saying, "My name is Usha. I dream of the day when I can get to meet you." And who do you think she sent this letter to? Frank Sinatra.
Can you imagine? I was only 13 years old.
And I want to know whether the wish of that letter was ever fulfilled.
No, unfortunately not, because I was just 13, I think, or maybe 12, I don't know, I'm not sure. And I just loved that man, and there was no electronic media in those days, so you couldn't see the man or his blue eyes or whatever. So it was just so exciting to, you know, to listen to his songs. And one of his songs, which just made me feel so excited within, you know, that somebody could really have the guts to say, it's got to be all or not at all. All of me. Why not take all of me? You know, that song just moved me so, because the very concept of it, you know, why not take all of me? Can't you see I'm no good without you? And I just thought, wow, what is this? And today, after so many years, I remember all the old songs' lyrics without any lyric sheet or anything like that, only by listening to it on the radio. So Frank Sinatra was somebody I loved so much, and I thought I had the credentials and qualifications because my two elder sisters, Indira and Uma, were the original singing Sami sisters, and I come from a very musical family. So where people listen to Beethoven and Mozart on one mezzanine floor, and my father would listen to, Appa and Amma used to listen to everything. But from M.S. Subbulakshmi to Frank Sinatra to Cliff Richard to, it's crazy. So I thought I might as well talk to him, ask him about it, Frank Sinatra. So I wrote a letter, "My dear Frank Sinatra." And I said, I'm Usha Sami, and I come from a very musical family or something like that. And after saying, and my dream is to meet you. I just want to meet you somehow. And then I put it into this yellow envelope, the inland letter. And with my pocket money, I put as many stamps as I could possibly put. And then I said, now what address do I put? I didn't know what address. So I wrote to Frank Sinatra, USA. God knows whether it ever got to him, and if it did, if it ever did, I'm sure he would have been happy to know that he had an Indian fan. Because most people abroad, only now people know about Western music being loved in India as well. There was a time when everybody used to think when I went abroad, they would say, are you wearing a sari just as a gimmick? You know, they thought I was educated over there, though we speak much better English than they
That's right.
ever thought. So, but still, and it's been one of my favorite lines to say when I'm announced abroad, especially. And there are many foreigners who look and say, well, even Indians have done it, even my own husband, the scandal that I married. The first time when I sang in Trinkas, you could hear them all saying, oh my God, what is this Amma going to do now? You know, that kind of reaction. So when the foreigners see me walk onto the stage and you got that, oh, you know, loud kind of a sigh. And my opening lines are always to say that I'm not as bad as I look. So,
Ushadi, I'm going to have to take you up on Trinkas because your story and the book is so vast. I've just got to choose little snippets. And I think everybody here would like to hear of that first 2-week contract that Ellis Joshua and Om Puri gave you to perform at Trinkas.
oh, that was fantastic. That's been the crux of my whole life, really. As I say, Trinkas is my mandir, masjid, girija, whatever you want to call it. It's hallowed ground for me, really. In fact, I think the whole of Park Street, but basically Trinkas. And Josh Uncle and Omi Mama sent this letter to me in Bombay when I was performing at the Ritz Hotel. And that was a nice sleazy joint, little hut where I sang. I'm sorry I don't look so sleazy, but I'm not sorry, actually. It might have been quite a good thing if somebody had made a pass at me at that time, but they didn't, unfortunately or fortunately. So when I got this letter, I remember writing a letter to Uncle Joshua to say, dear Uncle Joshua, whatever, 3 fingers away from the margin, because I went to a convent school and I knew how to write letters properly. Comma, neck 3, like that. I said, I'd love to come to Calcutta, but I don't know how to wear a dress, a frock. Frock, that's such a convent word. Huh? Have you ever heard of a word like frock now? No, so well, I said, I'm sorry, I don't know how to wear a frock. And he wrote back to say, no, we just want you to, just the way you are, so just come along. So I came to Calcutta. Oh, I always thought that Calcutta was abroad. I wonder how. Calcutta and Goa, for me, were 2 places which were abroad.
Not Cochin?
No, and Cochin, never thought of Cochin in those days. Though from Bombay was so close, we didn't know much about Cochin because everybody from the south, I mean from Kerala, were called Malabaris for some odd reason. Anil, are you listening? You're right? Yeah, everybody says Malabari, you know, because I think it's something to do with the coconut vendors in Bombay. So that was the connection. So I thought Goa was foreign because most of our teachers in school used to come to my father, who was in the police at that time, to get their permits signed to travel. Can you believe it? I mean, I know most of you weren't even born about the time that I'm talking, but in school, the teachers had to get, it was like not a passport to go to Goa, but it was a permit. It was called a permit. And Calcutta was, my God, really abroad. So my first visit to Calcutta, driving from the airport to Trinkas.
I believe they picked you up and brought you in their car.
Absolutely. And they came to the airport. I don't know how many of you would remember the old airport. Just one hangar like that. And it was such an experience, such an amazing experience, really. But it was indeed my 3rd trip by plane, because my first trip by plane was where it was 126 rupees, a ticket from Madras to Bombay in a caravel. Yeah, can you imagine? And I thought this lady sitting next to me, I was scared, but this lady sitting next to me, she really made me scared on that flight because we used to get an orange and some cake or something a biscuit, actually, a biscuit in the tray. And she had this fantastic orange, and then she wanted to throw it out the window. And I said, what? Get your hands off me. Across me, she wanted to. She was a South Indian. So I told her, "Enna mami neenga enna pandreel ipdiyella anga poi vechukkonga unga kaiya," which means, what are you doing, mommy? Put your hand that side. Right across me, across the window. But so fool I, because I thought you could open the window. What's with me? So when I came to Calcutta, I was already 3 flights old, you see, so I knew so much about everything.
Experienced flyer.
Yeah, very experienced flyer. And landing in the airport and then coming all the way to Trinka's, Park Street. God, it was just so exciting. And when that door opened and I heard the band playing, that's something I can never, ever, ever forget. And then I sat over there, and after the show was over, I had my first rehearsal, rehearsed with the band. I was opening on a Wednesday, I think. It was a Wednesday or a Thursday. And my first night, my premiere night, do you want to know about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh,
That
good. It's
first
not my Suhag Raat, but almost. Almost my Suhag Raat.
It was your first honeymoon with Calcutta.
Absolutely. Fantastic. And yes, I'm sure there are many people, faces over here, who would have probably heard me on that, at that week, maybe, in Calcutta and in Trinkas. Yeah, you were there for sure. So this whole audience was waiting, and they announced me. Uncle Josh announced me. He was such a fantastic man. Those days are really gone. But, you know, they all dressed up to come for the night show to Trinkas. And the ladies wore wonderful clothes and, you know, wonderful saris or well coiffed. And really, really, it was like going out somewhere big. So this announcement, and then the music started, and then I walked onto the floor and I started singing. You could really hear people say, "Oh my God, what is she going to do?" Because, you know, in between the teeth, like so. Yeah. Oh, that was very British in any case, you know, very tight-lipped. And but funnily enough, Johnny turned out to be tight-lipped right through. I'm still trying to seduce him anyway. So it's okay. So he was sat in the big table in front, and then I sang, and after singing, I was standing in the confectionery. I'm sure it's in the book about the license. Yeah. In those days, you had to go to Lal Bazaar and get a license to perform in a nightclub, in any restaurant. You couldn't just be news for you, Arindam and Shukla, because you couldn't just go into a nightclub and sing. So for the contract, you had to go to Lal Bazaar and get the papers signed. And one of the clauses was that...
Yeah. Tell us about those clauses that
Shall
you
I tell?
were a little apprehensive about. Yes.
No, one of the clauses was that you wouldn't sit at the tables where the customers were sitting. And the next clause, that was fabulous. They said you cannot solicit. Wow. Wow, do I look like that? Actually, it might have been a good idea if I was allowed to. But I solicited so bad, I mean, so bad with Johnny that, yeah, you know what happened after that. We got married. So.
You know, Ushadi, one of the fallbacks if you're going to Trinkas, you know, a lot of, if I ask anybody what is the overwhelming sentiment that Ushadi invokes in you, it is love. It is affection. It is ideation, if you like. But for me, one of the sentiments that Ushadi evoked first time in my life was fear. And I'll tell you why. Because I went to a school on Park Street, and I had a twin sister who went to a convent school just off Park Street. And we often walked down Park Street. And we knew there were 2 confectionery shops that you could go there and get cakes and patties and other things. One was called Flurries, the other was called Trinkas. And we were always told to go to Flurries. We were never told to go to Trinkas. So once we did actually strain and go to Trinkers, and then we went home and said we'd gone to Trinkers. And my grandmother, who was then in her 80s, almost exploded. She said, Trinkers, that's a nightclub. How did you go there? And my father said, my father, who's a member of this club, he's 96 2 days ago, so he couldn't be here, but he said, but there is a perfectly civilized lady called Usha Uthup who sings there now, so there is no reason why people from so-and-so and so-and-so school can't go there. So you see, my first emotion I had was, who is this fearful woman that stopped us going to Trinkers? And years later, Ushadi had the same feelings on sort of injected into me. This was, Ushadi would not even remember because she sings so often, but she was singing in Fort William. And it was a national conference of the Indian Society of Pathologists, of which I'm not a member, but my better half is. And for a change, she said, you make me attend all the neurosurgical conference dinners. For a change, come to a pathology conference dinner. So there was I, not knowing a single individual in that whole gathering of a few thousands. But I went because Ushadi was going to sing. And Ushadi was on the dais, and we were miles away, right in the background. The whole place was steaming, and I don't know how this lady's vision suddenly fell on me. And in the middle of everything, she said, there is Dr. Chatterjee, come and join me for a dance on the stage. And that again conveyed the same fear that I had of going to Trinkers. And I thought, I can't have a pathology conference where we have a pathological dance on the dais as well. So Ushadi, unfortunately, you've had two occasions when you've conveyed fear rather than love in my mind.
Oh dear me,
And
that's very sad now.
But every time else it has been love. And talking about fear, I'm going to talk about a character that somehow seems to have influenced your music, and that is 007.
Yes, absolutely.
Tell us a little bit about your opinion about him.
About James Bond. Well, I used to sing a lot of James Bond in those days. Thunderball, then The Look of Love, then so many, all Diamonds Are Forever, all the songs that came out of James Bond movies, I sang. And of course, I say it as a joke that, James Bond met me and he said, Usha, you are such a lovely singer and you have such a lovely body. I want you to, would love you to. So, and I always thought he was going to ask me only to sing, but he said, no, I want you to act in my movie. I say it as a joke, of course, and everybody enjoys the joke. And some of them, of course, don't understand the joke. It goes over their head, and they think I really met James Bond. So I pick my audiences, of course, and know where I should say it. And then I say that, oh, I'm so sorry, James, I just can't do your shooting for you because I'm going to be at the Bengal Club on the 4th of March, 2022. It's not possible. And then I say, so you see, I gave up James Bond for all of you. Where are you going, Pradeep? See how alert I am.
This is exactly what happened to me, Pradeep.
Yeah. So then, I always thought that James Bond was always just one person. But then, he changed so many times that I always have this wonderful line to say that I remain essentially the same, except for a few kilos here and there. If nobody's saying, no, you're looking slim. It's okay.
Rambaho. I can't let this interview go without a reference to it, and Shrishti's put it into the most beautiful language in the book. Really? Tell us about Rambaho.
Well, Rambaho, unfortunately, Bapida is no more, and it was done by Bapi Lahiri, and one of my biggest hits, really. It became such a fantastic... I became iconic. The iconic song really became me. And before that was Hari Om Hari. And, in Bombay, there was this, just after Oberoi, the Air India building, there was this big hoarding. Okay, one was, of course, Nana Chudasama's hoarding, which always had something topical to talk about, and one was the Amul hoarding. And it was for the first time that there was a song that was depicted over there, and it was the Amul baby with this garland like Kalpana Iyer, and it said, "Hurry home, hurry to some butter." Yeah, so if you want to clap, you can clap. Not so many singers can say such wonderful things about, about their songs. And so Hari Om Hari and Ramba Ho became really, really iconic. And Ramba Ho especially became something so, for older people, for generations, no matter what the occasion was, no matter what the puja was, whether it was Ganesh Utsav or whether it's Durga puja here, wherever, you will always listen to Ramba Ho playing. And did you write about the gramophone thing?
Everything is there. Do you think that my mother will leave anything out?
No.
Everything is there.
Okay, so there was this, probably nobody would know, so it would be nice, but I'm not giving you everything away because then you won't even go and buy the book. Okay, let me tell you quickly about that, yeah? There's this fantastic comedian called Shankar Banerjee. I'm sure Arindam would remember him. He was a really marvelous comedian. And I'd gone for a Mannada concert, Manna De's concert in Kala Mandir. And Shankar, I was performing in between. And he didn't know that I was in the audience. Okay? I was sitting in the audience and Shankar Banerjee said, "Eta ki odbhut byapar bolo to? Nijer gaan shunche ar bolche, aha, aha." That is, of course, disco divane, aha, aha. So everybody clapped their hands. Ki odbhut kotha. কি অদ্ভুত কথা ওখানে একটা কুকুর বসে আছে লাউড স্পিকারে হো 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 বলছে লাউড স্পিকার ফিরত বলছে হো 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 এরকম কুকুর বলছে রম্বা হো আর লাউড স্পিকার চুঙ্গা বলছে ho ho ho. So everybody was laughing and I was laughing, of course, the loudest because I love having good intelligent jokes about myself and I really love it. So in the interval I went to see Mannada. And before I could see Mannada, there was Shankar Banerjee. So I said, "Hi, Dada." And he said, "Oh, ma, tumi ekhane chile." I said, "Ha, keno?" "Na, tumi shunecho ami emni bolechi ma, emni." He said, he thought I felt bad about it. I said, "No, when somebody notices you and notices your song, it means you have really arrived. Really. So it's always good when somebody does that. And I'm a really good sport, so Ramba Ho is an iconic song.
So there are a lot of humorous events in Ushadi's life we've just heard about, but I think the one thing, when Shrishti introduced her, she talked about how she was the very picture of perfect feminine power. But I think one thing that is undisputed is that she radiated right from the beginning an unparalleled feminine stoicism in a totally men-dominated world. And I think we have to accept that that's probably her greatest contribution in any way. The fact that in a completely man-dominated world, she rose above everything. She confronted every man that came in her path, and she won every battle. And one of the major battles she had was even with a minister of this state, who took her to court and said her songs should not be listened to, should be banned. Anybody who hears them should be jailed. And she went to court. Tell us a little bit about that.
I took him to court because there was a lady, a fantastic actor called Geeta De, who had come to ask me whether I would sing for the Thakur Bukur Cancer Center. And I said, yes, most certainly I would do it. And in 2 days, fast forward, she came back and she said, "Na, eta hobe na, program hobe na, karon Jotin Babu boleche, apnar গান সব everything is অপসংস্কৃতি and you can't perform in any government halls." So I said, and of course I started crying straight away and cried and cried and cried, and I realized that I had to do something about it. So I rang up my father and told him about it, and he said, well, go and meet him. Next day I went and met Jatin Babu in Writers' Building, and he made me stand for quite some time. And I was, then finally I said, may I sit down? And he said, yes. He said. So I said, okay. And I said, first thing that came out of my mind, I said, who made you the Rakhwala of Bengali culture? I couldn't believe I said it. He was so angry with me. He was so angry. He said, I'll take you, you can take me to court, you can do anything you want, but I won't give a single government hall to you. So I said, okay, I'll take you to court. And I went to Shubhrutada, that is Shubhruto Rai Chaudhary, who had fought Indira Gandhi's case. And I said that this is the whole thing. And he said, okay, don't worry, we'll fight it. So, of course, it was fantastic. The whole media was with me. Before that, I must say that Jyoti Babu stood by me and he said, no, I'm out of this, Usha, don't worry about it. You go and sing wherever you have to. So he was on my side, the media was on my side, and the entire government was totally on my side, except poor Jackie Dada was fighting. But even his, I think it was the Khaitans who were fighting his case, and even they walked out. So poor man, he was left alone, and I won the case. It was Justice P.C. Barua who, it was a writ petition which I had filed on fundamental rights, and I'm saying it like this now, but at that time I went through a lot of pain, actually, a lot of sadness and grief, thinking that I was somebody's wife and somebody's daughter, somebody's mother and sister and friend, everything. And then you wondered, I did a lot of introspection at that time. And I wondered whether I was singing the right type of songs, am I doing the right thing? And I asked myself a lot of questions. And then I realized that, no, I believe in myself, so it's okay. And when I won the case, my father phoned me up and he said, okay, now that's enough. You won the case. Don't go ahead with the defamation, because I'd filed 2 cases. He said, just withdraw from that and say, maaf kar diya, it's okay. But till his dying day, Jatin Babu said he hated my music. He said, Tumi jedin Robindra Sangeet gaibe, and he's singularly the person who moved me and motivated me to really take to Robindra Sangeet. And I had 3 bestsellers, actually, not just 1, 3.
Usha, we could be here all evening and all night, and still everybody would be here listening to your story. But we've got to stop this, and I think everybody wants not to hear you talk, but to hear you sing.
No, you'd be surprised. I think they love me hearing to me.
They do, they do. And it's not even a surprise, but I'm going to ask you 2 final, very personal questions.
Okay.
Number 1, who is your favorite singer? Or has been your favorite singer?
Okay, actually, you know what? I don't have like one favorite singer.
Doris Day?
I like her, loved her. But Ella Fitzgerald, Barbara Streisand, Frank Sinatra, so many, Al Jarreau, Stevie Wonder, so many in the Western world. But the person who really motivated me, inspired me, so to say, is the one and only Harry Belafonte. Because, as always, I have said, yeah, I think he really needs a big hand, because he's the one who showed me how to get people to clap, get people to sing, and all this without any electronic media, just by listening in the radio once in a way. Sometimes you didn't even have a Google to get the right lyrics, so you had to wait for that program to come so that you could get the correct lyrics. It was very difficult, actually, in those days. It's so easy now when you just Google, and I tell Samarish, please get me the words of this, and he just Googles it and gets me a printout, and it's crazy. But in those days, it wasn't like that. But really, it's not about how good or how bad a singer I am, but how 100% original I am. I never copied anybody, and so I feel good about that.
Okay, last question is going to be an accusation.
Okay.
Why are you not wearing the K bindi?
Oh, today. Yeah, because I thought you were going to touch upon the fact that woman power.
I did.
And there's the Trishul, which is Shakti. Woman Shakti, actually.
It just makes us as Kolkatans happier when we see that K bindi. Don't you agree?
Yes.
Yeah.
But actually, I have to say that all my core bindis are so famous all over the place. Everybody wants to know what it's all about. So I even have core earrings. I have core written everywhere. So, you know, my grandchildren tell me very soon everybody's going to call you caw. It's too much. So, no, today I really wore this with a reason. And I think once in a way, it's nice to say that, yes, we, as I always said, every woman's issue is a man's issue. And so we must learn to walk hand in hand with man and not fight with you. So don't be scared of me.
Shrishti, I'm going to let you have the last word. To you, which is Usha Uthup's best song?
Best song.
Now that you've researched so extensively into her, your book, I think, has reference to 27 songs, I counted.
Yes.
So which is your most favorite song sung by her?
So,
Because she's going to start off by singing that song.
All right. So my all-time favorite song of Usha Didi, actually it is Darling from Saat Khoon Maaf. I really enjoy it. Like for years I've had it in my phone. Every time the phone has been changed, the song has been downloaded. It's a mood lifter song for me. It's a very empowering song for me. It's a song, on which I've actually danced in an empty room when, every time I was sad, I was worked up. Like that song just lifts me up. It just transcends me into a different timeline altogether. So yes, of course, Darling is one. And then Rambha Ho, of course, like I've been hearing that song, since a child. And the last one is actually Koi Yahan Aha Nache Nache. So these three songs, but then Darling is my most favorite song. And then that's what, like inside my head, it's like, so that's how I address her inside my head. She's a darling.
Thank you, Srishti. I think that brings us to the end of this first half of the program. Just to tell you two things. Number one, a certain number of books autographed by none other than Usha Di herself are available at the end of the program, and you may want to pick up yours at a very small cost. But remember, it's priceless because it has a signature on it. The second thing is that while she prepares for the program, we can give her a rest for 5 minutes, so you may take the opportunity to get your little glass refilled, but please settle down in 5 minutes before she starts singing. Thank you very much, Usha.
Thank you so much.
This has been an amazing experience.
Thank you. It's been wonderful. Please, nobody should disappear, okay? Just take your glasses and drink away.
I don't think you need to say that, Usha. The people generally don't disappear when they hear you're going to sing. So thank you very much again. And thank you, Srishti, for those great words.
Thank you to Penguin, of course, for this amazing, what a lovely book cover. Thank you. Thank you, love. Thank you so much. It was so beautiful.
What a beautiful session. What a beautiful